A short-legged horse was scorned and cast aside at a millionaire auction, dismissed as worthless. But a humble young man, defying the crowd, chose to buy it. What unfolded next, driven by the greed and cruelty of the wealthy, shocked everyone to their core. The morning sun was just beginning to warm the rolling hills when Paradise Ranch came alive with bustling activity. It was the day of the highly anticipated annual auction, an event that drew the wealthiest men and women from across the country. Luxury carriages and gleaming automobiles lined the grand driveway, leaving a trail of dust that swirled and settled with the breeze. Beneath a sprawling white tent, adorned with golden ribbons, a symphony of murmurs, forced laughter, and the clinking of champagne flutes filled the air. The scene was a display of unrestrained opulence. Men in tailored suits, sporting glittering watches, discussed business and pedigreed horses, while women draped in silk dresses and flamboyant hats strolled leisurely between the pens, feigning interest in the livestock. The thoroughbreds, meticulously selected for this event, whinnied anxiously from their temporary stalls, their strength and elegance underscoring the prestige of the auction. Among them, however, one horse stood out for all the wrong reasons. Its chestnut coat glistened in the sunlight, but its short, slightly awkward legs made it appear small and unsteady. The horse was young, barely a year and a half old, but seemed out of place among its noble peers. Each time a breeder approached, the horse dipped its head nervously as if it could sense their judgmental glances. "That one's got no future. Just look at its legs," scoffed a burly man in a black leather vest. "Such a shame. Its coat is nice, but those legs, it'll never win a race." The horse flicked its ears uneasily and stomped a hoof against the ground. It seemed fed up with being scrutinized and dismissed. A short distance away, Adam, a 17-year-old boy, was cleaning one of the ranch's carts with an old rag. Despite his young age, Adam's hands bore the marks of hard labor, calloused and dust-covered. His weathered skin was a stark contrast to his youthful eyes, which gleamed with an intensity fueled by dreams. He wore a battered cap that barely shielded him from the sun, and his patched-up shirt spoke of his family's modest means. Adam had been working as a helper on the ranch for several months, taking on tasks like feeding the horses, cleaning the stables, and assisting during events like this auction. Though the pay was meager, it allowed him to be close to the creatures he loved most in the world. Horses had always been his passion. His late father had instilled in him a deep respect for these animals, teaching him to care for them with patience and affection. On this particular day, Adam was instructed to keep his distance from the auction, staying in the background to ensure everything ran smoothly. Yet, something caught his attention: the chestnut horse that no one seemed to want. From where he stood, Adam watched as the animal was led into the center of the tent for bidding. "Ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer's booming voice echoed through the speakers, "our next lot is a young, vibrant, and healthy horse, a true diamond in the rough." Adam frowned. Even from a distance, he could see the horse's discomfort. It shifted nervously from side to side, snorting with its head low, its muscles taut. The sight of the anxious animal stirred something deep within him. "Who'll start the bidding at $1,000? The auctioneer continued. The room fell silent. A few attendees chuckled softly, their amusement mingling with the ambient noise. Mr. Victor, a tall, silver-haired man in a pristine blue suit, stepped forward with an air of disdain. He was renowned as one of the country's most successful and arrogant breeders, known for his sharp eye for horses and his seemingly endless wealth. "I won't waste my time on a horse with legs like that," he declared loudly, crossing his arms. The crowd erupted in knowing laughter. "But, sir," the auctioneer interjected, "this horse has great potential, with the right training." "Training?" Mr. Victor interrupted with a derisive chuckle. "Don't make me laugh. That creature isn't worth the space it takes up." Adam's blood boiled. His gaze shifted to the horse which, upon hearing the laughter, began tugging at its reins with growing agitation. Its large, expressive eyes, so strikingly human, seemed to plead with Adam. "Get me out of here." Clenching his fists, Adam felt a surge of determination as the auctioneer pressed on. "Anyone, ladies and gentlemen, this is a one-of-a-kind opportunity. Who's willing to offer at least $500? The silence was deafening. Mr. Victor let out a frustrated huff, turned on his heel, and walked away as a few attendees began losing interest in the auction. "I'd buy it, but it's not worth much, not even for farm work," muttered a man as he headed for the exit. Adam lowered his gaze, slipping a hand into his pocket. He nervously counted the crumpled bills he had managed to save over the past few weeks through sheer determination. They added up to barely $200, not even enough for a decent saddle. But something deep inside urged him to act. Taking a deep breath, his heart pounding so fiercely it felt like it might echo across the crowd, Adam stepped forward. "I'll do it," he said, his voice cracking at first. Clearing his throat, he tried again. "I'll offer $200. The auctioneer froze mid-sentence, turning to regard him with visible surprise. A murmur swept through the small crowd, with heads swiveling to locate the source of the unexpected bid. "What did you say, kid?" the auctioneer asked incredulously. $200, Adam repeated firmly. "It's all I have." Laughter rippled through the room, while others simply looked astonished at the audacity of someone so young and clearly struggling to speak up. "We're not wasting any more time," the auctioneer finally declared, shrugging his shoulders. "Sold to the boy with the torn cap." The chuckles and murmurs didn't matter. Adam moved quickly toward the corral, his hands trembling as he reached the horse. The moment his fingers brushed the animal's nose, a strange calm washed over him. "It's okay, buddy," he whispered gently. "You don't have to stay there anymore." The horse met his gaze with large, soulful eyes that seemed to hold the weight of everything it had endured. For a fleeting moment, Adam felt an unspoken connection. "I'll call you Lightning," he said quietly, a small smile spreading across his face. "Because no one sees it yet, but I know there's strength inside you, a force waiting to be unleashed." Lightning let out a soft snort, almost as if in agreement. With slow, deliberate care, Adam led him out of the corral, ignoring the sneering looks and mocking remarks from the onlookers. To Adam, Lightning wasn't just a horse with short legs and little value. He was a companion, a friend, and perhaps a symbol of something greater to come. Together, they started the long journey home. The road was dusty and stretched endlessly under the blazing midday sun. Adam held the lead rope tightly, walking steadily beside Lightning. The heat bore down on his shoulders, and the horse plodded along hesitantly, as if still unsure of its new path. Despite it all, Adam's smile never wavered. He occasionally stroked Lightning's neck, speaking softly to soothe him. "Don't worry, buddy. We may not be rich or have a fancy stable, but I promise you'll be okay," he murmured. "Mama always says big things start small, right?" Lightning tilted his head slightly, and Adam chuckled, his voice carrying a lightness that hadn't been there before. For a moment, it seemed like the horse truly understood him, as if they shared a bond beyond words. They continued in this way, soft exchanges and the steady rhythm of their steps, until they finally reached Adam's modest home on the outskirts of town. The property was small, with a patch of dry land, an old barn, a simple adobe house, and a makeshift corral. As they approached, his mother, Mrs. Clara, appeared in the doorway, her hands calloused from years of labor. Her kind eyes instantly filled with a mix of surprise and worry at the sight of the chestnut horse. "Adam, what have you done now?" she exclaimed, her tone caught between exasperation and concern. Carefully tying the lead rope, Adam stepped closer to his mother. "I bought him, Mama. I couldn't leave him there. Nobody wanted him." Mrs. Clara crossed her arms, her gaze shifting to the horse. Lightning snorted nervously, his ears twitching at the unfamiliar sounds of chickens clucking and the creak of the wind in the old tree near the corral. "With what money, Adam?" she asked sharply. "My savings from working at the ranch, Mama. It was $200, Adam admitted, his voice unwavering. Her expression softened, though a sigh escaped her lips. Slowly, she walked toward Lightning, extending a hand to stroke his muzzle. The horse stood still, his dark eyes reflecting years of hardship and struggle. "Oh, Adam," she said softly, shaking her head, "you've always had a heart bigger than your wallet." Her tone was a mix of fondness and exasperation. "But tell me, what are you going to do with him? We barely have enough for ourselves." Adam knelt beside his mother, his gaze fixed with determination on the horse standing before him. "I'm going to take care of him, Mom," he said firmly. "I'll train him, feed him with whatever we've got, and who knows? Maybe he's special. I can feel it. This horse isn't what everyone thinks. I see strength in him, something different." Mrs. Clara studied her son for a long moment, recognizing the sincerity in his voice. She knew him well enough to understand that when Adam spoke like this, he truly meant it. Finally, she let out a resigned sigh, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "All right, son," she said softly, "but he's your responsibility. Make sure there's food for him. And for us. Understood?" "Yes, Mom. I promise." Adam's face lit up with excitement as he rushed to lead the horse, Lightning, into the small corral. Though it was little more than a patchwork of old planks held together with wire, it would be his home. Lightning circled the enclosure cautiously, inspecting his new surroundings. Adam quickly spread some hay on the ground and ran off to fill a bucket with fresh water. "Here you go, buddy," he exclaimed, setting the bucket down. "It's not much, but you'll see. It'll get better." Lightning drank eagerly, his chestnut coat gleaming in the sunlight. Adam perched on a tree stump by the corral, watching the horse with admiration. "You know," he began, "the people at the auction laughed at you. They said you weren't good for anything, but I don't believe them. My dad used to say horses aren't just about muscles or long legs. They've got heart, and I know you've got the biggest heart of all." Lightning lifted his head and looked at Adam, as though he understood every word. In that moment, Adam was certain he'd made the right choice. Even though he lacked experience, resources, or support, he didn't care. Together, he and Lightning would achieve the impossible. The days that followed weren't easy. Adam worked tirelessly from sunrise to sunset at the ranch, returning home with aching hands and sore shoulders. Yet, every evening, he found time for Lightning. First, he fed the horse and brushed his coat with an old broom he'd repurposed. At first, Lightning seemed wary, but over time, he began to relax under Adam's gentle touch. Then, they ventured into the fields, where Adam led him on simple walks with a makeshift rope. At first, Lightning moved hesitantly, as though burdened by the weight of the ridicule he'd endured in his short life. But Adam's encouragement never wavered. "Come on, buddy. Just one more step. It doesn't matter if you're not fast now. What matters is that you keep going." The boy's words seemed to fill the air with hope, and gradually Lightning began to respond. His steps grew steadier, his trot more confident, and the distrust in his eyes slowly faded. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Adam led Lightning to a meadow he'd often visited with his father as a child. The gentle breeze carried the songs of crickets, and the golden light bathed the scene in warmth. Adam removed the rope and stepped back. "Go on, Lightning," he urged. "Run! Be free!" For a moment, the horse stood still, uncertain, but then something within him seemed to awaken. Lightning pawed the ground before bursting into a full gallop, his speed surprising even Adam. The chestnut horse moved like lightning, graceful and powerful, leaving behind a trail of dust that sparkled in the fading sunlight. Adam watched in awe, his throat tight with emotion. "I knew it, buddy," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I knew it. Nobody else can see what you've got inside, but I can." Under the orange sky, Adam and Lightning's story truly began, a tale of a humble boy, a misunderstood horse, and a dream that would soon grow far beyond anything they could have imagined. Months passed like leaves carried by the wind, and with each new dawn, Adam and Lightning became inseparable. The young boy kept his promise. No matter how exhausted he was after working on the ranch, he always made time to care for and train his horse. With resourcefulness and determination, Adam transformed the little he had into tools for building a future. The old corral, once just a rickety fence on the verge of collapse, was reinforced with sturdy branches and planks salvaged from abandoned construction sites. The small stable was covered with a new tarp Adam had sewn himself under the flickering light of an oil lamp. Every evening after returning home, he would rush to greet Lightning, who welcomed him with a cheerful short neigh. "Did you miss me, buddy?" Adam would ask, running his hand along the horse's gleaming neck. "I hope you're ready, because today we're starting something special." Adam had been discreetly watching and studying the horse training techniques used at Mr. Victor's ranch. Although hiring professional trainers or buying expensive equipment was out of the question, he had learned the fundamental principles: patience, trust, and discipline. Lightning might not be the biggest or fastest horse at first, but Adam believed his spirit knew no bounds. He began by leading the horse to walk and trot in an open field near his home, an uneven patch of dry grass and small rocks. While other racing horses trained on smooth, well-maintained tracks, Lightning was learning to navigate challenges, to adapt to every curve and slope. "Come on, Lightning, one more step!" Adam would shout, running alongside with the lead rope in hand. At first, Lightning hesitated. His short legs stumbled and his movements were awkward, but Adam never scolded him. If the horse stopped, so did Adam. If Lightning fell, Adam was by his side in an instant, stroking his back and whispering words of encouragement. "It's okay to fall, my friend. What matters is getting back up. We're in this together, aren't we?" Day by day, the bond between them deepened. Adam knew he couldn't ask Lightning to run without first building unshakable trust. He spent weeks fostering their connection. Some mornings he rose before dawn just to watch Lightning run freely in the field. Sitting on a rock with a piece of bread in hand, Adam marveled at how the horse was growing stronger, how his once clumsy legs now seemed like tools of agility and resilience. "Look at you, boy," he muttered. "You move like the world is yours." Over time, Adam decided it was time to elevate the training. Using whatever he could find, he improvised obstacles with old logs and barrels and carved out a circular track around the corral with a shovel and rake. It wasn't much, but it was enough for Lightning. Each day, Adam guided him to trot in circles, gradually increasing the speed and duration. Lightning's endurance improved. His muscles grew stronger, his movements more fluid. The once clumsy, timid horse now moved with purpose and determination. One hot afternoon, as Adam watched Lightning run under the blazing sun, Mr. Henry, an elderly neighbor from a nearby property, approached. He was a thin, stooped man, weathered by age, wearing a straw hat and leaning on a wooden cane. Resting against the makeshift fence, he observed in silence before finally speaking in his raspy voice. "That's the horse you got from the auction?" Startled, Adam turned to him. "Yes, Mr. Henry. His name is Lightning." The old man let out a dry chuckle. "Boy, that horse doesn't have the legs to win a race." Adam clenched his teeth but didn't respond immediately. Instead, he focused on Lightning, who kept trotting, blissfully unaware of the words meant to diminish him. Finally, Adam said calmly, "You know what, Mr. Henry? Legs don't run on their own. It's the heart that makes the difference." The elder studied Adam for a moment, and something in his expression softened. Perhaps he saw in Adam the same fire he once had in his youth. With a slow nod, Mr. Henry turned and walked away without another word. That evening, after Lightning's training was done, Adam led him to a small pond nearby to cool off. The horse exhaled heavily, exhausted yet content. Adam sat on the edge, dipping his feet into the cool water. "Did you hear what Mr. Henry said?" Adam chuckled softly. "That you don't have the legs to run?" "That's because they haven't really seen you yet," Adam murmured softly, his gaze fixed on the horse before him. Lightning dipped his head to drink from the stream, his lean muscles no longer appearing frail. His chestnut coat shimmered in the afternoon sun, catching a brilliance that hadn't been there before. Every movement the horse made now carried a natural rhythm, a grace that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Adam reached out, skimming the water's surface with his fingertips, sending ripples cascading outward. "Someday," he whispered, "they'll all see what I see in you. I promise." The wind rustled through the trees, leaves and branches creaking in the quiet stillness. Adam felt the weight of his dream inching closer to reality. Summer was fading fast, and with it, the fields were beginning to transform. The rains had grown sparse, leaving trails of dust rising with every step. Nights turned cooler, a crispness hinting at the changing season. Adam and Lightning pressed on, their hard work undeterred by the shifting weather. But something in their routine had changed. Adam's ambitions had grown. He no longer just wanted Lightning to run well. He wanted him to compete, to prove himself. One sweltering afternoon, as Adam trudged back from the ranch, coated in sweat and dust, he overheard murmurs among the workers. "They say Mr. Victor is hosting an open race at the county fair," one of them mentioned. "An exhibition for his new horses. People will come from all over to see it. The prize is bound to be huge." Adam's heart raced. An open race, anyone could enter. His first thought was of Lightning. "Are we ready for this?" he wondered aloud. Doubts lingered in the corners of his mind. But deep down, a spark of determination urged him forward. That evening, over dinner, Adam shared his plan with Mrs. Clara. "Mama, Mr. Victor's hosting a race at the county fair. I want to enter Lightning," he said, his voice steady. Mrs. Clara paused, her spoon hovering above her plate, concern flickering in her eyes. "Are you sure about this, son?" she asked gently. "Those races aren't child's play. The other horses, they'll have professional trainers, special diets, veterinarians." Adam nodded, resolute. "I know, Mama. But Lightning doesn't need all of that. He's got something they don't, heart. We've worked so hard, and I believe we can surprise everyone." Mrs. Clara sighed, her expression softening as she looked at her son. She knew that once Adam set his sights on something, there was no stopping him. "All right," she said finally. "If that's what you want, then do it." Just promise me you'll be careful. Don't push Lightning too hard." "I promise, Mama," Adam assured her. The next morning, Adam walked to Mr. Victor's expansive ranch. The place buzzed with activity. Workers hauling equipment, prepping the stables for the showcase horses. Near the main entrance, a man sat at a desk, taking down entries for the race. "Name of the horse?" the man asked without looking up. "Lightning," Adam replied. The man glanced up, his eyebrows rising slightly as he took in Adam's worn clothes and scuffed boots. "Who's the trainer?" he asked, barely concealing a smirk. "I am," Adam said firmly. The man chuckled derisively, glancing at the nearby workers who started to murmur and laugh under their breath. "Kid, this isn't a race for farm horses or children pretending to be trainers," the man said, shaking his head. Adam clenched his fists, drawing in a slow, steady breath. "Write it down," he said, his voice unwavering. "Lightning will be there." For a moment, the man stared at him, as if expecting him to back down. But the unyielding determination in Adam's eyes silenced any further mockery. With a huff, the man scribbled the name onto his list. "Suit yourself," he said, "but don't come crying when your horse doesn't make it past the first stretch." Adam said nothing, turning on his heel and heading home with a smile tugging at his lips. For the first time, Lightning would have a chance to show the world what he was capable of. Back at home, the atmosphere grew intense. Adam extended their training hours, careful not to overwork Lightning. The horse responded with boundless energy and enthusiasm, as if he too understood the significance of what lay ahead. Adam devised new challenges, steep inclines to build strength, higher obstacles for agility, and short sprints to boost speed. At the end of each long day, Lightning returned to the stable exhausted but triumphant. Adam rewarded him with the best feed he could afford and brushed his chestnut coat until it gleamed like polished copper under the moonlight. Together they were preparing for something extraordinary. One afternoon, as Adam worked on setting up a small track in the open field, his elderly neighbor, Mr. Henry, appeared. This time, there was no trace of sarcasm in the old man's tone, nor did he express skepticism about Mr. Victor's endeavors. Adam nodded, pressing a wooden post firmly into the ground. "Yes, Mr. Henry, Lightning is ready." The old man slowly approached, stopping beside Adam as he planted his cane into the soil. "You know, boy," he began, his voice steady with the weight of memory, "I've seen many fast horses in my time, but only a few ran with their hearts. Most were driven by fear of the whip. But if your horse runs for you out of love, then maybe, just maybe, you might surprise them all." Adam glanced up, startled by the elder's words. "He doesn't run because I command it, Mr. Henry. He runs because he wants to, because we let him be free." A small smile crept across Mr. Henry's face, his approval evident. "In that case, Adam, I wish you luck. That race could change a lot of things." Later that evening, Adam sat quietly in the paddock beside Lightning. The horse, calm and unbothered, chewed on a bit of hay under the pale glow of moonlight. Adam leaned against the fence, his gaze lifting toward the stars. "Tomorrow's a big day, buddy. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we'll show them no one has the right to judge you by your legs or how you look. We'll run for us, because together we can prove them wrong." Lightning stepped closer, almost as if he understood every word. Adam reached out, his hand resting gently on the horse's muzzle. "If my dad were here, he'd say it doesn't matter what they think. Even the smallest horse can make giant strides if it's got the right heart." The wind whispered softly through the trees, a quiet promise of the destiny awaiting them. That night, Adam drifted into a light sleep, while Lightning rested under the starry sky, readying himself for the challenge ahead. At dawn, the sky blushed with hues of gold and orange, heralding the importance of the day. Adam woke early, his heart pounding in anticipation. This wasn't just any race, it was their chance to show that Lightning, the short-legged horse so many had mocked, could hold his own against the best. In the distance, the vibrant hum of the fair filled the air. Vendors set up their stalls, children darted between them, and the sound of guitars and laughter floated on the morning breeze. At the paddock, Adam watched as Lightning stirred, raising his head at the sound of his rider's approach. "Good morning, champ," Adam greeted, stroking the horse's neck tenderly. Lightning responded with a spirited whinny, as if ready to face the day alongside his rider. Adam carefully fitted him with their best gear, old but meticulously repaired. The saddle, the reins, everything was in place. As he worked, Mrs. Clara approached, a small cloth bundle in hand. "Here, some bread and fruit for you," she said, her voice soft with encouragement. "I can't be there, but I'll be praying for you." Adam smiled, his resolve unwavering. "Thanks, Mom. We'll give it our all today." With hope in his heart and his mother's words carrying him forward, Adam walked with Lightning toward the fairgrounds. By the time they arrived, the crowd had already gathered. Riders, horses, and spectators mingled in a lively sea of anticipation. Whispers followed them as Adam led Lightning through the throng. Some pointed, others chuckled. "That horse? Seriously?" one rider said, disbelief laced in his tone. "Look at those legs. He won't last a second out there." Ignoring the sneers, Adam kept walking, his steps firm and purposeful. They reached the practice track, where the other riders were already preparing their horses, imposing animals with sleek coats and powerful builds. To Adam, however, Lightning was more precious than all of them, a symbol of their shared journey and resilience. As he warmed up the horse with light trots, something felt off. Lightning wasn't moving with his usual energy. His steps were slow, hesitant, as if something weighed him down. "Come on, buddy, what's wrong?" Adam murmured, trying to coax the spark back into his partner. Despite his efforts, the horse remained sluggish, and Adam couldn't understand why. Unbeknownst to him, a shadow loomed nearby. Watching from a distance stood a tall man with a thick beard and an air of arrogance. His piercing gaze was fixed on Adam and Lightning, his intentions concealed, but his presence heavy with foreboding. One of the men standing near the preparation area had been laughing earlier at the sight of Lightning, Adam's horse. This man, an assistant to Mr. Victor, had been involved in spreading rumors around the fair, mocking Lightning's chances in the upcoming race. For some time, he had been watching the horse closely, waiting for the right moment to carry out his plan. When the coast was clear, he crept silently toward the stables where the horse's water buckets were kept. No one saw him as he sprinkled a fine, nearly invisible white powder into Lightning's water. The substance clung to the water's surface, undetectable to the naked eye. This powder was a muscle irritant, designed to cause stiffness and exhaustion, making the horse feel sluggish and weighing down its movements. Satisfied with his underhanded work, the man smirked and walked away, convinced his sabotage would tip the scales in Victor's favor. Later, when Adam noticed Lightning abruptly slowing down, sweating profusely, and struggling to breathe, a wave of frustration swept over him. The horse's sudden exhaustion didn't make sense. "Lightning, what's wrong, buddy?" Adam asked, his voice heavy with concern as he stroked the horse's neck. Assuming it might just be the oppressive heat, Adam led Lightning to the water bucket. The horse dipped his muzzle into the water, but reacted strangely after taking a sip, jerking his head back as if the drink had caused discomfort. Despite the odd reaction, Adam encouraged Lightning to keep going, chalking it up to fatigue from the long journey or pre-race nerves. As the race time approached, Lightning's condition showed no signs of improvement. Each attempt to pick up speed caused the horse to stumble slightly, his strength inexplicably waning. Adam looked into Lightning's eyes and saw a sadness there, as though the animal too understood something wasn't right. When the loudspeaker crackled to life, announcing for riders to proceed to the starting line, Adam realized he was out of options. Whatever was happening, there was no turning back now. Lightning had earned his place in the race, no matter the odds. "Don't worry, boy," Adam whispered as they walked toward the starting line. "We're not giving up. No matter what they throw at us, we'll face it together." The atmosphere near the line was electric with tension. Laughter and jeering rippled through the crowd, while some of the other riders cast condescending glances in Adam's direction, certain that Lightning posed no real threat. But Adam held his head high, ignoring the sneers and dismissive stares. His determination burned brighter than ever. He mounted Lightning, his trusted companion trembling but ready to try. "We'll show them," Adam thought, gripping the reins tightly. "We may not be the strongest, but we have something better. Heart." The announcer's voice boomed, signaling the start of the race. Horses thundered into action, the ground shaking beneath them as they kicked up clouds of dust. Though Lightning's steps felt heavier with every stride, Adam refused to surrender. The other horses surged ahead, their riders shouting commands as they claimed the lead. Adam leaned forward and called out, "Come on, Lightning! We can do this together!" Slowly, with a determination that defied his weakened state, Lightning began to accelerate. His pace wasn't as fast as the others, but each step reflected the deep bond between horse and rider. A bond built on trust, perseverance, and an unyielding will to keep going. The starting line faded into the background as the race unfolded before them. The track buzzed with adrenaline, the crowd's cheers mixing with the rhythmic pounding of hooves against dirt. Adam noticed the towering figures of the other horses, like Victor's massive steed, Thunder, dominating the front of the pack. The stakes were high, and the tension was palpable, as though everyone sensed this wasn't going to be an ordinary race. But Adam's focus never wavered. Lightning wasn't at his best, but Adam's faith in him never faltered. Together they would face whatever lay ahead, proving that true strength comes not from size or speed, but from resilience and courage. As the signal echoed like a gunshot, the race truly began, and Adam's resolve only deepened. This was their moment. But Adam refused to give up. Tightening the reins, he leaned forward and whispered with determination, "Come on, Lightning. You've got this. Hold on." At first, Lightning struggled to keep pace, his short legs straining against the longer strides of the other horses. But as they pushed forward, Adam felt an unsettling sensation. Something was off. It wasn't just the natural disadvantage of Lightning's build. The horses' movements were sluggish, as though drained of energy before they had even covered much distance. "This can't be happening," Adam muttered, his eyes narrowing as he noticed Lightning falling further behind. As they rounded the first curve, something odd caught his attention. Several of the other horses were stumbling, their strides faltering as if something unseen was hindering them. At first, Adam dismissed it as coincidence, but the realization soon struck him. The dust blanketing the track was shifting strangely, almost alive. A chill ran down his spine. Something wasn't right, and whatever it was affecting the horses. Lightning tried to quicken his pace, but his hooves slid across the ground, struggling for traction. Each attempt to accelerate left him wobbling, barely keeping his balance. Adam gritted his teeth, frustration and desperation welling up inside him. He glanced around and saw other riders pressing forward without apparent difficulty, their horses unaffected by the stumbles that plagued Lightning. "What's going on?" he murmured, his jaw tightening. And then the memory hit him. the poisoned water. He recalled the peculiar dust he'd seen floating in the bucket and how lightning had drunk from it without hesitation. "No way. We've been sabotaged," Adam hissed under his breath, fury igniting in his chest. His gaze shifted to the front of the race, where he spotted Mr. Victor confidently riding his horse, Storm, with a smug grin plastered across his face. It was clear he believed the victory was already his. Adam's anger surged. He couldn't let Mr. Victor win like this. "We're not done yet, Lightning," he growled, stroking the horse's neck with fierce determination. Knowing a traditional win was no longer possible, Adam realized their only chance was to rely on the bond he had built with Lightning over the years. Speed wouldn't carry them through now, but resilience might. They would fight, no matter the odds. Renewing his grip on the reins, Adam guided Lightning into the next turn. The horse responded awkwardly at first, still battling the lingering effects of the dust on his muscles. Yet, with each step, Lightning seemed to regain a flicker of stability. "Stay strong, my friend. Don't let them take this from us," Adam whispered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. As the race wore on, Adam noticed the larger horses beginning to falter, their powerful strides breaking down as they struggled through the same curves that had initially hindered Lightning. The strange dust was taking its toll on everyone, but Lightning had borne the brunt of it earlier, and now his resilience began to shine. In the distance, Adam watched as a bulky rider in a red jacket lost control of his towering horse, tumbling to the ground. Even Storm, Mr. Victor's prized stallion, started to stumble, his once commanding pace slowing as they rounded another bend. The dust wasn't sparing anyone. A glimmer of hope sparked in Adam's chest. If they could endure, if Lightning could hold out just a little longer, there might still be a chance. Summoning every ounce of willpower, Adam urged Lightning forward. The horse, though visibly weary, pushed on with a tenacity that defied expectations. Their connection deepened, a silent understanding passing between them as they fought together. Lightning's hooves still slipped occasionally, but he found ways to stabilize, to keep moving. As the final lap approached, the finish line came into view. Adam saw something that made his breath catch. A rider who had seemed destined for victory veered off the track, unable to control his horse. Lightning, though battered and exhausted, pressed on, surer in his stride than ever before. Adam felt a surge of pride and determination. Together, they weren't just surviving the race, they were making their mark. "We're almost there, buddy. Let's give it our all," Adam shouted, his voice filled with determination as he and his horse pushed toward the final stretch. The crowd erupted in cheers, some in disbelief at what they were witnessing, others marveling at the sheer grit of Lightning. Against all odds, the horse remained in the race. They might not be the first to cross the finish line, but all eyes were locked on them. Adam and his horse fought with every ounce of heart and spirit they had. And in that moment, that was all that mattered. As they crossed the finish line, Lightning's legs trembled with exhaustion, but radiated a fierce determination. Victory wasn't defined by placing first. It was about refusing to give up, no matter the challenge. The day's competition came to an end, but Adam and Lightning knew their real battle was only just beginning. Something within them had shifted. No matter how many obstacles lay in their path, or how many tried to bring them down, they would keep fighting. The late afternoon following the competition was cloaked in an eerie quietness at the fairgrounds. The once bustling crowd had dispersed, and the air, which had been filled with laughter and chatter, now hung heavy with silence. Adam led Lightning back to the stable, their bodies weary but their spirits unyielding. Though they hadn't won the race, they had done the unthinkable. They had proven to the world that true strength wasn't found in speed or size, but in an unbreakable will to persevere. When Adam stepped into the modest stable, he found Mrs. Clara waiting for him, her face etched with concern. Relief flickered in her eyes as she saw him, but it was quickly tempered by the exhaustion she noticed in his. She had already heard whispers of what had transpired during the race, though she couldn't understand why Lightning hadn't gone further. "How's my champion?" she asked gently, her hand brushing through Lightning's mane. Adam sighed deeply, the weight of the day settling on his shoulders. "He's fine, Mum," he replied, sinking into a nearby chair and staring at the ground. "But I'm not." Mrs. Clara crouched in front of him, her hands folding over his in a gesture of comfort. "What happened, son? I know Lightning is more than just a horse to you, but I want the truth. Why couldn't you win?" Adam raised his eyes to meet hers, his voice laced with frustration. "We were sabotaged, Mum. Someone tampered with the water, put something in it that affected all the horses, but it hit Lightning harder than the others." She froze, her face a mix of disbelief and simmering anger as she tried to process his words. She knew competitions could be brutal, but never had she imagined someone would stoop so low to sabotage a young man and his horse. "Do you know who did this?" she asked, her voice trembling with equal parts outrage and concern. Adam clenched his jaw, shaking his head. "Not for sure, but I have my suspicions. During the race, I saw Mr. Victor watching us with this strange smirk. I'm almost certain he's behind it." As Adam recounted the events, a steely resolve began to grow within him. He couldn't let this go unanswered. He owed it to himself, to Lightning, and to everyone who believed in them to uncover the truth and seek justice. The competition had been a trial, but Adam knew an even greater battle awaited. The next morning, he resolved not to sit idly by. This wasn't just about a race. It was about exposing the dark dealings behind the scenes at the fair. Someone like Mr. Victor couldn't be allowed to get away with such treachery, especially after what he had done. Adam and Lightning weren't just racing for themselves, they were fighting for something far bigger. The young man made his way straight to Mr. Victor's estate, a grand and imposing building that loomed in the heart of the town. Surrounded by impeccably manicured gardens, the mansion was the talk of the community. Whispers swirled among the townsfolk, claiming that the true foundation of Mr. Victor's wealth had been laid within those very walls. Yet such a reputation was rarely built on honest deeds, and Adam was well aware of that fact. When he arrived at the massive front door, the servant who opened it seemed taken aback, but he dared not stop him. Adam strode forward, his resolve unwavering, ready to confront the man he believed was behind everything. In the mansion's grand parlor, Mr. Victor sat in an ornate chair, leisurely smoking a cigar while gazing out of the large window at the serene view outside. "What brings you here, boy?" Mr. Victor's voice was cold, his gaze fixed on the horizon, not even bothering to turn and face his uninvited guest. Adam stood firm, his voice steady. "I'm here about the competition, and I'm here for answers. What do you know about what happened to the horses?" At last, Mr. Victor turned his head, his eyes narrowing with disdain. His expression spoke of a man who relished his own superiority. "Do you know why you didn't win, kid?" he asked, his lips curling into a smug smile. "Because there are things money can't buy, not even with a horse as extraordinary as Lightning. Sometimes people need to understand their place." "What did you do?" Adam demanded, his voice laced with tension and barely restrained fury. Mr. Victor leaned back in his chair, crossing one leg over the other with an air of unshakable confidence. "I did nothing more than what was necessary. That horse of yours? It's just a distraction. I thought you, naive as you are, would have realized by now. But it seems you still don't grasp how things work around here. Adam, his anger bubbling to the surface, took another step closer. It doesn't matter what you try. I won't let you get away with it. Wow, what a ride, right? Let me just take a moment to say, this story may be fictional, but it carries some incredibly real lessons. It's a tale about perseverance, compassion, and the unshakable belief in potential, even when the odds are stacked against you. Adam's journey with lightning is so much more than just a story about a boy and his horse. It's a powerful reminder of how far determination and heart can take us, even when the world laughs in our faces. The way Adam refuses to give up on lightning, despite the ridicule and challenges, really hit me. It's a reflection of what it means to see value in something or someone that others dismiss. And honestly, how many of us have felt like lightning at some point? Misunderstood, underestimated, or even sabotaged. This story shows us that the most valuable things in life aren't always the fastest, the strongest, or the most obvious. They're the ones with the most heart. And let's talk about the villains for a second. Sure, Victor represents greed and power, but he's also a reminder that there will always be people trying to bring you down. What really matters is how you rise above that. Adam and Lightning didn't need to win the race to prove their worth. They showed everyone what true strength looks like: resilience, courage, and trust. So, what did you take away from this story? Did it remind you of a time when you had to overcome something tough? Or maybe you've had a lightning in your life, someone or something you believed in when nobody else did. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going, and I'll see you in the next video.